Hey, long time no see. So, I have been researching lately all about trauma, also diets, etc., etc. First and foremost, diets do not work. They're a waste of time, and it is a quick fix that simply isn't worth it. So, all too often, people get so used to these quick fixes in life, thinking that if I just get on a diet, I'm going to lose weight. If I drink this tea for 7 days, I'm going to lose 10 pounds and I'm going to be in the best shape of my life. But what people fail to realize is your obesity, your food choices, your health decisions, your everyday decisions are all based on some sort of traumatic event, whether you think so or not. And today we are going to discuss how your trauma, whether it is something that is major or something that is very small that you have carried into your adulthood, is directly linked to your mental and spiritual health, and how all of those things tie into your everyday choices. So, starting with diets don't work, right? Just like your body, whenever you have to work on your body, it is something that's long term that you have to do daily. If you are exercising, it's a commitment that you have to make. There's a discipline and a self-control that you need in order to exercise, to make the right food choices, to know that your long-term health is more important than short-term fixes. Getting back to basics. Getting back to making sure that our dependence is on God alone and nothing else. So, trauma is defined as a distressing or disturbing experience. Now, certain trauma or traumatic events include emotional, physical, sexual abuse, both domestic violence, assault, death of a loved one, neglect when you were a child, forced separation from your parents, divorces whenever you were young, adoption, discrimination, generational drama, generational curses, medical trauma that you've endured and have carried on throughout your life and you haven't been able to cope with that. Any system-induced trauma, any mental form of slavery, right, can be all traumatic experiences for you. And it could be something as small as your parents were never there for you when you were younger, and so it took a toll on your upbringing, and because of that, your daily decisions are directly based on the things that you went through as a child. And a lot of people don't understand how their daily decisions are based on those events because they never think to link them. But everything is connected to something. Your choice to indulge in sweets every day, all day, your addiction to going to McDonald's all the time and feeling some sort of self-love whenever you eat, or self-love whenever you go to the bar and have a drink, that self-love you feel whenever you are dependent on a relationship. All of those are traumatic events and they directly affect your health, mental health, spiritual health, and physical health. But in order to get to the root cause of why you make the decisions that you do, your spiritual and mental health must be fixed and worked on. Before you can get to your physical, looking good and feeling good, you must feel good from the inside out. And once you start getting to the root cause of those problems, they will reflect on the outside, because you will know that the work is being done in the inside, in your inner, in your heart, and then it'll reflect itself. So it's always something deeper at work, something deeper than the eyes can see. And health is not just a concept of your physical appearance, or, I'm going to the gym every day, so I know I'm healthy. I'm eating good every day, so I know I'm healthy. But it's basically your overall well-being. Are you healthy spiritually? Are you healthy mentally? Are you in the best shape of your life emotionally? And then, are you in the best shape of your life physically? Because it all comes together as one. So it takes time to get everything worked out, in a sense. Physically, you may have horrible eating habits, being overweight, consistent ailments within your body, but it comes from your trauma responses. So those self-esteem issues that you haven't worked out, though that unforgiveness that you haven't worked out, the bitterness, the resentment, all of the things that need to be worked out within yourself that you're not aware of. Without God's wisdom, you are unaware of those changes that need to be made. You are not understanding of the true transformation that needs to be done. So at this point, we are getting back to Him, getting back to relying on Him, having that soul dependence on Him, and not worrying about how the food makes you feel, or the drinks make you feel, or the people around you make you feel, or your environment. But getting back to Him is all that we need, because He will give us the discipline, the self-control, the will, the cleansing that His Spirit gives and allows us to heal within ourselves. And from there, everything else will manifest itself to the outside. So it is a getting back to facing ourselves, reflecting on what we've become and what we should be according to the Word of God, because everything is linked back to Him. Committing to the spiritual work aids in your mental, which helps you to understand why you make the food decisions that you do, why you allow these coping mechanisms to make your daily choices for you, and what type of trauma, hurt, issues are directly affecting your heart, because that's where it all stems from. So it's time to ask yourself, where is your dependency? What are you leaning on to make yourself feel great, to make yourself feel some sort of joy, to make yourself have some sort of self-esteem? What are you depending on? Is it food? Is it drugs? Is it alcohol? Is it going to the doctors and getting the prescription medications for the opioids? And why? Are we following trends to want the latest surgeries, to get ourselves skinny quickly, or getting the butt injections? What is the underlying issues that we're not facing that's allowing us to follow after the world? And as we lean on God, we start to understand that whatever state we're in manifests itself to the outer appearance. It shows up in our daily choices. The issues that we face plague our self-esteem, which in turn makes us choose the wrong people to hang around, the wrong trends to follow, the wrong things to do on the weekends, and is very detrimental to our health. Did you know that millions of people in the USA have faced some sort of physical, sexual, emotional, verbal abuse during childhood? And because of that, they seek the comfort in food, alcohol, promiscuity, partying, drugs, etc. And there's an inability to receive a natural high when you're dealing with that trauma. The trauma eats at you, making you feel unworthy, a lack of productivity, all of the things that we need in order to know that who we are. Trauma can be the smallest things, like I said earlier. It can be neglect, your parents not being around, or if they are around, they don't know how to be parents. They can't take care of you because they weren't taken care of. And it's a generational cycle continuing to the next generation, because if you don't learn and you don't understand and get the wisdom, then it's a continuous thing. It could be bullying, being the outcast of family, being the outcast at school, having that emotional trauma, not feeling worthy, this type of complex, your lack of sense of self, in no type of positive role models being around you, or full-time parents being around you, maybe being put in the foster care system, or being taken away from your parents in some sense, having to live with guardians for some odd reason, fighting in the household with your parents or guardians, just being outcasted in some way with your family members, sisters, siblings. It's something that has happened to you as a child that carried its way through and made you make some sort of bad decisions which directly affected your health, mental, spiritual, emotional, physical. Now, it could be traumatic grief of a loved one, any type of everyday difficulties that you may go through or face that makes you make certain decisions. Like sometimes I'll hear people in passing, talking about how they had a horrible week. Maybe they got into a car accident and something happened with their children at home. And so their way of coping with that is, man, I'm going to get a drink. I'm just going to go party all weekend. And people in this society, they think that that's the right answer to it. But in our reality, that's only hurting the situation more than it's helping. See, people can think that, oh, well, I'm just going to go get a drink, so it's okay. But you don't understand the underlying health detriments that drink is going to have on you. It can be your environment, being around lazy people, growing up in a house full of people who don't want to clean up after themselves, who are very lazy, lack of productivity. And so that carries on because you become a product of your environment. You start to feel unforgiveness toward the people who've done you something. You feel bitterness, resentment, vengefulness, anger. You start to quarrel with people, fight with people. You have this sense of you're angry all the time because you haven't dealt with the trauma. The slander, you make false accusations, you gossip about people because you don't feel good about yourself. Malice, this desire to do evil towards others because you feel that bad and you have to let it out in some way, shape, or form. Evil speaking against others. And those are all of the things that we are to let go of. Ephesians 4:31 and 32 says, let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, evil speaking be put away from you with all malice, and be ye kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. So we want God's forgiveness, but we have to get to the point where we're forgiving others. And although that word forgiveness for a lot of people, it triggers them. Because I've heard so many people in the past say, I'm not going to forgive them. They hurt me. I'm not going to forgive them. They did this. I'm not going to forgive them. They made me do this. But we don't understand that we have to forgive people, not for them, for us. We have to forgive them for ourselves, our well-being. Forgive them so that we can heal. So that those traumatic choices that we're making, those choices in response to that we're making, won't have us beaten down and trodden down. So that weight is lifted off of us. That's why we forgive them, not for them. Because better believe that they will get their just due. So you don't have to worry about those people because God has it. You need to be concerned with yourself. And if you have resentment built up in your heart, any malice built up in your heart, anything that is not of God built up in your heart, you are feeding that trauma. Every single time you make a decision to do something that is not right. I've spoken on the negative effects of food throughout a few of the other videos, such as the ailments, the high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, things of that nature that happens in response to the foods that you eat, the lack of productive lifestyle, lack of exercise, things of that nature. And with the food that you eat comes the heart failure, the strokes, the stress, the restlessness, the decreased energy, the irritability, headaches, digestive problems, which cause even more ailments in your life. So food is a response to trauma. Not feeling good about yourself. Oh, I just want to go eat something. I'm stressed, so I'm going to go get me a cheeseburger every day because I'm stressed. Because some people say, well, I don't drink, but you eat, and I've been there. I've eaten things that I wasn't supposed to eat in response to a trauma, in response to not feeling well about myself. So everything that I am telling you, I've been there in a sense. Food has negative effects on your body depending on what type of food you eat and the food decisions that you make. Now, certain people, like I said earlier, depend on drugs. And that has a negative effect on you mentally. It causes aggression, paranoia, heart failure, seizures, breathing problems, hallucinations. It's more of a mental decline, sudden mood changes, death, psychosis, all of those drugs that are being promoted. Opioids are a drug. No matter if they've approved them or not, they're a drug. Addiction is real when it comes to being on something in response to a trauma, feeling like no one loves you, or being emotionally battered, so you go to something to depend on that thing to make you feel the way that you think you're supposed to feel. Everything is connected. Everything is related. It all goes back to the trauma. It all goes back to your heart. Drinking. That took me a while to research because it was so in-depth, understanding what alcohol does to your body and to your mind. But yet, it's legal. Of course, it's one of the biggest markets that's making the most money because they know, just like opioids, they know the negative effects of it, but they also want to promote it because they also know that you're dealing with your trauma. They know that you're dealing with stress. Even a few months ago, I was looking at an article that was talking about people's stress levels during the pandemic and how over the last year or two, alcohol sales have shot up, which lets me know that instead of people depending on God and getting back to where they need to be, they're dependent on this alcoholic beverage to help them relieve stress. So it all goes together. Stress and your choices, the trauma and your choices. Now, when I was looking up drinking, right, and the need to self-medicate, the stress relievers, it dawned on me that there were so many health issues that were linked to this alcohol that nobody is talking about. So, did you know that not only does drinking cause high blood pressure, high heart disease, stroke, liver disease, digestive problems, it weakens the immune system, it creates learning and memory problems over time, it introduces problems such as dementia, it interferes with the brain's communication pathways, affecting the way your brain looks and works. It causes a stretching and a drooping of your heart muscle, an irregular heartbeat, stroke. Takes a toll on your liver, which, remember in my last few videos, I talked about the liver and how the liver is the powerhouse. So it takes a toll on your powerhouse in your body. It creates fatty liver, liver cirrhosis, the holes in your liver, causes the pancreas to produce toxic substances that lead to inflammation, which goes back to your ailments in your body. And drinking slows your body's ability to fight infections. Your brain shrinks over time. Cells start to change. The minute you take a sip of that alcohol, your cells start to change, having effects on your ability to think, learn, and remember things. Drinking directly affects your central nervous system. Now let's pause there, because when I read that drinking alcohol directly affects your central nervous system, letting me know that it directly affects your frontal lobes in your brain slows down when you drink, which is why you have slurring of words. It irritates the stomach lining. It makes digestive juices flow, which can cause ulcers. It throws off your intestine and colon and speeds the food up that's moving through them. Your brain helps your body to stay hydrated by producing a hormone that keeps kidneys from making too much urine. So alcohol tells the brain to hold off on that hormone. This leaves you dehydrated, which is why you have the dry mouth, slurring of speech, all the things, because it's directly affecting your brain. Also, it jams up the process of the pancreas, So chemicals stay in your pancreas for longer periods of time. Toxins from alcohol can cause inflammation in your organs. It makes the blood vessels in your body and your head expand, which is why you have the pulsating headaches and migraines the next day, and they call it hangovers. But it's a huge headache because of the vessels in your brain that have expanded due to this drink that you wanted to have. Your stomach wants to get rid of the toxins and the acid that alcohol churns, but because your liver was busy processing drinks all night, it doesn't release enough sugar in the blood, and it causes you to be weak, and it causes you to shake. So in our actuality, alcohol completely shuts down your system from your brain all the way down to your feet. It jumbles the signals that keep your heartbeat steady. Your heart rhythm can change permanently if done for years on end. And I remember when I used to work at the hospital, how I would come in contact with those people who were diagnosed with like liver cirrhosis, and they would always say, well, I only had a bottle of wine a day, you know, or I only had drinks on occasion. It's just like, you don't even understand how those drinks directly affect your body as soon as you drink it. Some of these symptoms didn't say that it took a long time to happen. Majority of these symptoms said that as soon as you take that drink, it's already rushing to your brain cells. It's already going through your vessels. It's already stopping your blood in certain areas. It's already dealing with your pancreas. It's already linked to your liver. Some of these things are already happening as soon as you take those first sips. So some of this stuff is not about longevity or how long you've been drinking or how much. It's the fact that you're doing it, period. That directly affects your body and your health. Now, lastly, it impacts your hormones. It messes with the part of the brain that produces sound. And it limits blood flow to your muscles. I wanted to know what the central nervous system does. So I looked it up and came up with, it is your body's processing center, period. It controls most of the body's awareness, movement, thinking, speech, seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling. So, if alcohol inhibits your speaking, causes slurred speech and coordination, it affects your impulse control, leads to blackouts. This leads to long-term shrinks in the frontal lobes of your brain. The effect on the brain is felt quickly as your memory loss, your coordination, your memory, your emotional response issues, your extreme shifts in mood. You ever been around drunk people and their mood shifts very quickly? They get angry at everybody, you know, and they always say it's the alcohol speaking. Thank God I'm not there anymore. Thank God, you know, he was able to pull me out in the nick of time, because who knew that all of these negative effects from your lifestyle could take a complete toll on your spiritual, mental, all of it. You may just see it as, I'm just going out for the night to go party, but you go out every weekend to go and party and go have fun and live it up, because your daily life within the week isn't what you want it to be. So you have to find some sort of outlet. Then the promiscuous lifestyles based on what you've been through, which can lead to even more damaging mental and physical health, spiritual health, unwanted pregnancies, STDs. You tend to be on birth control when you live that type of lifestyle, going out all the time and being promiscuous. The negative side effects that you feel in your self-esteem and in yourself, your lack of love for yourself stemming from that, based on your trauma responses. And we don't even know how detrimental this stuff is. So in applying wisdom, putting these things into practice to know that, wait a minute, something's wrong. Why do I feel the need to do this all the time? What's going on with me, Lord? getting him as your dependence to say, Lord, I don't want to depend on these things anymore. I want to depend on you. And having him show you where you're supposed to be and where you are to say, I got you, is completely different than the world's view of relaxation or dealing with stress. They label everything as a mental and physical issue. They'll tell you quickly that you're depressed, so you need to go seek a counselor. Well, there's only one counselor that I know, and his name is Jesus. This worldview that you have to go out every weekend in order to get away from your daily stress, this worldview that if you're not high on something, then we don't know what's going on with you. The worldview. I heard somebody say that partying was a hobby for them. Everything has been normalized, and the morality of things has decreased. Our values have decreased. So we don't think that linking our physical, mental, spiritual health begins with our trauma. We don't think that we need to work out anything within us in order to heal our whole being. We don't think that we need to get back to God. That's the world's view. They know you don't need to do that. You need to do what we're doing. You need to come out with us every weekend. And because we go partying, and then you have to deal with the effects of that partying throughout the week, because then your body has to get back to healing itself, because you've been putting all of these toxins and alcohol and poison, because that's what it is. If anything goes into your body and directly affects your brain, your mental health, your memory, coordination, your speech, your hearing, your sight, that's pure poison to me. It's poison. When it can affect you in that way and have you completely out of your sober-mindedness, that's poison. Proverbs 19:8 says that he that getteth wisdom loveth his own soul. He that keepeth understanding shall find good. In Proverbs 16:16, how much better is it to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding rather to be chosen than silver. This wisdom that we are to seek comes from God alone. He has to be our dependence, our sole dependence, because we know what we're dealing with. We know the trauma that we faced. We understand that our traumatic experiences have shaped us in some way, and we want to get away from that. We don't want to feel down on ourselves or depressed. We don't want to feel sad every day. We want to have joy. We want the fruits of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance, being able to have that self-control, have a temperament about yourself, because against such there is no law. Galatians 5:22 and 23. We are to have his Spirit, and that is going to start to cleanse our heart and cleanse us of all the bitterness and the malice and the envy that we feel and the unforgiveness that you have towards others. Because once he comes in and allows you to see yourself and the things that you need to change, and those things start to get put away, and he starts to take all of those things from you, all of that weight, all of those burdens from you, and you are able to lay it at his feet, then you wake up feeling a little lighter in the morning. You wake up feeling like you can do, like you are productive, like you are a member of society, like you can live out his purpose. You wake up feeling as though you are right where you need to be, because you shouldn't allow the trauma to affect you negatively. You take that trauma, forgive those who have done you wrong in any way, shape, or form. You ask God to help you in that forgiveness. You understand that the trauma wasn't done to you, but that it was done for your good. You take it and you allow it to push you in the direction that God wants you to go in. You allow it to help you to build that foundation for your purpose, because that's all it's for. That's all it's for. It wasn't meant to put you down. It wasn't meant to make you depressed or to get you outside of yourself. It was meant to make you see things for what they were, because God allows things to happen for our good and so that we can chase after him. He allows the trauma so that we can depend on him to help us get through the trauma. And then once we overcome it, then he starts to show us who we are in him and who we are to become in him. So once we get to that point, he starts to give us his wisdom, his understanding, and from there, we start to look at food differently. We start to look at our choices differently. The people that we hang around, the things that we listen to, the things that we watch, all of the things are lined up and connected based on where our dependence lies. Your dependence lies on God, then you're going to make godly decisions. If your dependence lies on the world and everything that's in it, then you're going to make worldly decisions based on your trauma. You can forgive others, not only for them, for yourself. You can still seek God while it's time. Your dependence has to be on him. And he wants us getting back to basics. Not dependent on any doctors to tell you what and who you are. Not going to the counselor every week thinking that that's going to heal you. Not being dependent on any type of substance, any drink at the bar. Because all of those things are only messing up your health even more. Doesn't matter how much you go and work out, how much you get done to your body, how much you eat healthy. If you're still going out drinking every weekend because you're dealing with some unknown trauma that you can't face, then that means you're not healthy overall. Your well-being isn't as rounded as you think. Because once your mental and your spiritual well-being is intact, then everything else can build off of that. But you can't build your physical and you haven't even dealt with your spiritual. Because your spiritual is that base foundation of what everything else is to build off of. That soil of what everything else is to grow out of. And so we have to know when we have to face ourselves. So with that, I hope and pray that the people who are trying to get back to God, God's people, that you are truly looking at yourselves in the mirror, because we all have work to do every day to continue to seek after Christ, after his own heart, to seek salvation, to seek after his righteousness, so that we may in turn be righteous, so that we may in turn be saved. So think about those things. Allow it to simmer. Seek Christ. Pray. And all praying is you having a conversation with God. So have that conversation because it's needed. Let go of the weight. Let go of the trauma. Let it go so that you will be able to get God's wisdom, so that you will be able to be saved, and so that you will be able to make better decisions from here on out. And I promise you, your health, mental, spiritual, physical, once everything is wiped clean, and once God gets a hold of you, everything will start to flow in the manner in which it should because of him and him alone. So thank you so very much for watching this video. I hope that this helps someone. Have a good one.